The year was 1997, and the United States stood at the edge of a new millennium. It was a time of optimism, confusion, and quiet transformation. Technology was beginning to reshape the world, but life still held traces of the simpler, slower pace of the 20th century. 1. The streets of 1997. If you walked down an American street in 1997, you would see payphones on corners, Blockbuster video stores glowing with bright blue and yellow signs, and teenagers hanging out at malls with Walkmans or portable CD players clipped to their belts. Starbucks coffee shops were just beginning to multiply across cities, while McDonald's was introducing new menu items to keep up with a fast-changing society. Gasoline was about $1.22 a gallon, and SUVs like the Ford Explorer were the new symbol of middle-class success. People were still mailing letters, renting VHS tapes, and carrying pagers instead of smartphones. 2. The political landscape. Bill Clinton was president, enjoying high approval ratings as the economy boomed. The Cold War was over, unemployment was dropping, and the budget deficit was shrinking. The internet was becoming more accessible, but most Americans still connected through noisy dial-up modems. At the same time, debates over global trade, healthcare, and the role of government were simmering. The Monica Lewinsky scandal had not yet exploded, but the seeds of political drama were already planted in the nation's capital. 3. A family in Chicago. Let's imagine a middle-class family living in Chicago in 1997, the Thompsons. David Thompson, a 40-year-old office worker, had just received his first company email address. He didn't really know what to do with it, and his secretary still printed his memos. Linda Thompson, his wife, was a school teacher who carried stacks of textbooks home every evening. She believed in the power of education, but felt the public schools were underfunded. Their children, Michael, 15, and Sarah, 12, represented two different generations of the late 90s. Michael loved his Nintendo 64 and often played GoldenEye 007 with his friends after school. Sarah, on the other hand, was obsessed with the Spice Girls, Tamagotchi pets, and the bright, colorful world of Nickelodeon. The Thompsons were an ordinary family, yet their lives reflected the pulse of America in 1997. 4. Culture and entertainment. That year, Titanic hit theaters, breaking box office records and making Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet household names. People lined up outside theater for hours, and many returned to watch the movie multiple times. On television, Friends and Seinfeld dominated Thursday nights, while Oprah Winfrey was America's most trusted talk show host. In music, the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC were rising stars, while Tupac Shakur's death in 1996 still echoed across the rap community. Pop culture defined the decade, and 1997 was its golden moment. 5. Technology on the rise. One of the biggest shifts in 1997 was the growth of the Internet. AOL chat rooms were filled with teenagers discovering digital communication for the first time. Email was becoming a new norm, though most people still preferred phone calls. Google didn't exist yet. People used Yahoo or Ask Jeeves to search for information. At home, the Thompson family's beige desktop computer sat in the living room. It was bulky, slow, and shared by everyone. Michael used it for school projects and sometimes snuck into chat rooms, while Linda worried about strangers online. Nobody could have predicted how this little machine would transform the world within a decade. 6. News in the world. The year was not without tragedy. In August 1997, the world mourned the death of Princess Diana, who died in a car crash in Paris. Millions of Americans stayed glued to their TVs, watching the funeral broadcast live. In the United States, conversations about violence, youth culture, and technology were growing louder. School shootings were rare, but beginning to spark fear. Debates over video games and their effects on children had already begun. Yet, for many, the 1990s still felt safe compared to the turbulence of later decades. 7. A day in the life. On a typical Saturday in 1997, the Thompsons might begin their morning with pancakes while listening to the radio. Linda would head to the local supermarket, where groceries were still checked out by cashiers rather than self-service machines. David might read the Chicago Tribune, skimming over sports and political headlines. Michael would call his friends on the landline and ride his bike to the local arcade. while Sarah would beg her mom to buy her the latest Spice Girls poster. In the evening, the family might rent a VHS tape from Blockbuster, pop popcorn, and gather in the living room. Life was busy but not yet consumed by screens and notifications. 8. The spirit of 1997. The late 90s carried a sense of hope and transition. The Cold War had ended, the economy was strong, and new technologies promised a future of endless possibilities. At the same time, Americans were still deeply rooted in familiar routines. Neighborhood block parties, Friday night football games, and Sunday church services. The Thompsons, like millions of other families, didn't realize they were living in the final years before the world would change forever with smartphones, social media, and the events of September 11th, 2001. 9. Looking back. For many who lived through it, 1997 feels like a bridge between two worlds. It was the end of an old century, when families still gathered around television sets and children played outside until dusk. Yet it was also the beginning of the digital age, as the internet quietly spread into homes and workplaces. The Thompson story is not extraordinary, but it reflects what life was truly like in America during that year. Ordinary people experiencing ordinary days, unaware that the world was about to speed up dramatically. Conclusion: the United States in 1997 was a nation of contradictions. Modern yet traditional, fast-changing yet comfortable in its routines. It was a year of prosperity, entertainment, and cultural icons. More importantly, it was a moment in history when people still balanced between the analog and digital worlds, when the internet was a novelty and family time meant watching a movie together on a VHS tape. 1997 was not just a year in history. It was a turning point, a time when America looked confidently toward the future, not knowing how quickly that future was approaching.